Hi, my name is Dan Zeilinger, and I have been a world-traveling full-time trad jazz musician for the past 40 years. Some of my most memorable performances were on the lawn of the Edinburgh Castle, at Imperial Palace in Japan, as well as TV shows and commercials across the world. I've met many people during my career and have spent many hours on stage and off with these musicians, talking about jazz, life, and more. Some are touring musicians, some are theme park warriors, and some are casual musicians who play on the weekends with friends. I think they all have stories worthy of a movie script, and through these interviews, I'll be sharing them with you. Hi there, this is Dan Zeilinger with Trad Jazz Today, and my next very patient guest is a friend of mine that I've met just recently, but he's been a longtime musician, and hopefully I can claim him as a friend. Anyway, Mr. Hugh Van Kliest. Hello, Hugh.
Hello, Dan. Nice to see you.
So I was just saying off the air for you folks that are listening to this eventually, that I didn't realize Van Kliest was such a very famous last name. Being somebody of German extraction was a rather odd last name. I'm always surprised when I meet somebody with this kind of name, and then it turns out to have a real big lineage.
Yeah, my great great grandfather was a famous general, General von Kleist, and was part of the obviously the Nazi regime, which was not a good thing. But my dad told me when I was very young that that there was a contingency of people, Nazis at that time, that weren't in favor, didn't like what Hitler was doing. But, national pride, you go along with it. And so that's kind of where my great-grandfather was.
Yeah, but don't forget you're talking to a Zeilinger, so.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So, but yeah, he was a really decorated. I've had many people tell me that he's kind of regarded as Patton to Germany as far as like famous, war heroes.
Wow.
Yeah, so he was a biggie, and then his son, my dad's dad, he was the first Hugh. So there was Hugh von Kleist, and then Hugh von Kleist, my dad, and then I'm the third. So yeah, he was a biochemist, and actually I got his manuscripts of books he wrote in the 20s. He was I guess at the forefront of developing acidophilus culture.
Oh, okay.
Which is in yogurt.
Great.
And it's actually a very important supplement for your diet, your
digestive system.
Digestive system. Thank you.
Yeah, I take probiotics every morning. I know of what you speak.
Yeah. So yeah, it's pretty crazy. I guess he wrote on dietary and all of that stuff in the 20s, and I've got these manuscripts that were never, and books that weren't even published. But my dad, told me that, he had figured out this culture. And when I was a little boy, I used to run around in this laboratory my dad had in Watts. And my dad was a biochemist too, and he was actually, packaging the culture and shipping it out. So pretty crazy. So that guy was huge. And then there's also a very famous poet in the von Kleist family who I guess a lot of his stuff is read in colleges and super, super highly regarded. But unfortunately took his life, I think in his late 20s, because he didn't think he was very successful. Felt like he was a failure. And so yeah, there's some pretty accomplished people.
Yeah. I have to admit that if anybody looks up my last name, usually they come up with an Austrian physicist who had a lot to do with quantum theory.
Oh wow!
But I don't claim any of those brains, of course.
Well, a lot of people get my name. They say Van Kleist, but it's von Kleist. If the A was in there, then it would be, I guess, Dutch. Von and Kleist are obviously both German. So
now, of course, you have two daughters that ended up being dancers. Is that true, or sisters?
Yeah, two sisters. Yeah, they were dancers, go-go dancers in the '60s, and the one that's a little bit younger, she was not so much a go-go dancer or lounge dancer, but she went into musical theater and she became a choreographer, and was great. But they were both really great.
And your older brother was the drummer with the surf tones.
Yeah, well, he worked. He actually, it's pretty
That,
crazy.
that's great.
Yeah, he was with I guess Dick Dale and the Surftones, and some other surf bands. But he was actually one of the first drummers with Journey, because we grew up in the Bay Area, and this was a garage band at the time. He didn't know that what was going to happen with that band because they were just kind of starting out. But
You're a bunch of guys in a garage band.
yeah, so he did that, and he was really great. He played with Louis Bellson and at Disneyland as a teenager, doing double bass drums, and played in the Lawrence Welk show. Yeah, he was really, really super, super talented. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
of course, you're not exactly a slouch yourself. Now, there are a couple other Von Kleist, of course, that I'm not sure. I'm sure you're aware of. One's a very famous woodwind player.
Yeah, Erica Von Kleist.
Erica, is she a relation?
You know, we've met a couple times, and we've talked about it. I don't. It's crazy because when I look at her, she looks like my mom when my mom was in her 20s. So I don't know if that's just coincidental or what, but obviously the name is exactly the same. So somehow we're connected.
Yeah, and there's a choreographer, right? Heinrich von Kleist.
Oh wow, yeah, I don't know about him, unless now was that are we talking like way way back with him?
I'm not actually sure. Just when I do these interviews, I try to research people thoroughly, so I'm not speaking as a fool on the other end. And I was just really impressed with how often this name comes up.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not sure how much it's coming up nowadays, but there was a time when it was definitely coming up. Yeah, and yeah, she's fabulous.
Yeah, along those lines, for my end, there's one Zeilinger who actually produced one of Sandra Bullock's very first movies,
Oh wow.
Jerry Zeilinger, and my older brother, who's way into the family tree stuff, called him, and he claims no association, although the spelling's exactly the same.
Mm.
And when you have Zeilinger, you doubt whether or not that it's possible not to be related somehow.
Yeah, yeah. That seems like there's got to be some kind of relation there.
So somewhere in the woodpile or out back, it's.
Yeah, and I would think the same thing with Erica and I, although we haven't really looked into it too much, but yeah, she's something else.
Yeah, well, she's actually she's done some online stuff for several symphonies, and it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I actually, on a trip to New York, I don't know, 7, 8 years ago, I met up with her, and she was doing the Addams Family at that time. I think she'd been doing that musical for quite a while. And she had me go down in the pit and sit basically right behind her and just watch, listen to her and the other woodwind player and there was only 3 woodwind players, but they were all doubling on everything.
Yeah.
I mean, double reeds, single reeds, it was crazy. And they were just incredible playing.
Well, doing musicals like that takes a very special kind of musician.
Yeah.
Not only because of the doubles, but just because of the patience.
Mm-hmm.
And not falling asleep before your next cue.
Right.
I mean, I understand. I actually did a whole bunch of them in college as a trumpet player.
That's cool.
But so it's understandable.
Yeah.
You also mentioned in one of your bios that you actually did some time with the Tom Kubas band.
I did. That was really a big thrill.
I just interviewed him 2 days ago.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. He's a little Mozart.
He's amazing.
Yeah.
We actually ended up in college together at the beginning of my career. And wow, I mean, just talking about somebody who has a speed of arranging.
Yeah, he's really world class on many
Who
levels.
was in the section when you did that? I'm just curious.
Well, it was a Monday night band that he had. So he had for a long time he had his his band, the Tom Kupas band,
Right.
and then he had the Monday night band at Golden West College where he taught for
Oh, sure.
maybe 30 years, and that was made up of a lot of a lot of great players.
Yeah, who's who? Yeah.
Well, yeah, but I mean there were some just really lucky guys to be in there, and I definitely was one of them. And Benny Golbin, the late Benny Golbin, who was a really good friend of mine, he actually got me in the group, and I played in that band for about 5 years. It was every Monday night. They do a couple concerts a year.
Oh, yeah.
And it was great to be around all those really great players. Yeah.
Yeah, it's and actually Golden West College had a great program there for a while.
Right.
Their main director, Dave Anthony, I actually was an alumni of that program.
Oh, wow.
Back before Tom was teaching there.
Yeah.
But yeah, good stuff, man. I want you to know that as you probably found out if you've seen a couple of the interviews, that I don't necessarily send around talking about trad jazz necessarily. I just use that name as kind of a hook.
Yeah.
Kind of a way to weave all these interviews together.
Yeah.
But many of my interviewees played one or two gigs with me in the Dixieland vein, and they qualify for this show, I say.
Well, we could talk about trad jazz as much as you want because I love that as much as I love straight ahead jazz.
Oh, I understand that. I played with you enough to understand your respect and are a scholar of all styles, actually. But somebody like you who has the distinction of having done a duo with Ron Eschay and then asking you to talk about Turk Murphy is just kind of a little mind-boggling at times.
Well, I guess that's a good thing.
It is.
Yeah, Ron is amazing. He's probably on a short list of the greatest living jazz guitarists, especially from a harmonic standpoint. He's like Bill Evans on that thing. Just amazing, and a real sweet guy. I'm really lucky to play with him as much as I have so many great players.
Oh yeah, it's wonderful though, because as you process all of these different peoples and styles, the difficult part is keeping them separate at times. You know what I'm saying? In other words, I'll get, when you came down and sat in with us the first time down at Curly's, I could tell that you had come from a more modern side. I think I even mentioned it to you.
Right.
And for somebody who can play chromaticism of a bebop or more advanced jazz style to coming down to almost basic triads and sixes and things for Dixieland, that's actually a hard step to make at times.
Yeah, I'm still struggling with it. I mean, not so much that it's from the theoretical standpoint as just the application, being good at it. Yeah, it's hard to feel like you're doing both justice. I mean, I honestly feel like I'm still trying to get good at both. If anything, I'm more comfortable on the tenor saxophone. That's like my main thing. But, clarinet is definitely, I'm playing better clarinet than I ever played in my life, but still got a long way to go. And soprano too. And, trying to play the music of that period, And, just, I finished up where we did recording the last 2 days with, Corey Jem, who's fabulous, and Jesse Ward and Benji Clark, and we're playing all the early stuff. And yeah, I mean, it's just got so much stuff to work on.
Well, of course, I'm not telling you anything, but this part of the show is for the younger players that are thinking about becoming musicians.
Yeah.
One of my main messages is don't unless you have to.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean that from an emotional standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
If you can think of anything that you like as equally to music, then do that. Because it's not because I'm not trying to be cynical, but it's just this is a hard life.
Yeah. I guess if you love it and you have a passion for it, then I think that'll carry the day. But it's definitely going to have, peaks and valleys and struggles, like anything.
Yeah.
But
well, hang on a second. Let's go back to the beginning, and we'll come back to this point. And where were you born, sir?
So I was born in La Mirada.
Okay, I know exactly where that is, of course.
Yeah.
And where did you go to elementary school there and high school as well?
I didn't. I think I was probably about 3 or 4. My mom had emphysema, and she was actually 40 years old when I was born in '65, which was not common. I don't think they expected me. My dad was in his late 60s. He was like 60, I don't know, 68, 69 when I was born. Okay. So I honestly think, I know they went on a trip, and I don't think that my dad thought that anything would happen. And, yeah, so anyway, I was my mom was not healthy, so we moved up to the Bay Area because the weather, the air is better up there. So I pretty much grew up in the Bay Area in San Francisco.
How old were you when you moved up there?
Probably about 3 or 4. I was really young.
Okay, I just noticed that you went to an Esperanza High School.
That's right. So
there's one of those down here.
That's right, and that was the one down here actually. That was
okay, Costa Mesa.
Yeah, no, close to Canyon High School, out in the Anaheim area. Yeah. So when I was about I was a sophomore in high school, junior in high school, and I moved back down here because my mom at that point was not good, and so she passed away in '81. I was like in the middle of my junior year. So my dad being very old, very elderly at that time, I moved down with my brother. That was the best thing for me to do, and he lived right there off of Imperial Highway, in between Canyon High School and Esperanza High School. So
I don't know if you know this, but I taught at Canyon for 12 years.
I do know that, yeah. Yeah. I actually started at Canyon. At the time, I wasn't doing any music, and I was playing baseball. That was like that's what I wanted to do. So there was some conflict with me transferring from the Bay Area, and is this legal? Because I'm on the other side of the river, so I ended up going to Esperanza, and it was great. I was there for about a year and a half, 2 years, and played baseball all the way through. Kept playing baseball after that, and I don't know about.
What was your position?
So I was a catcher. Yeah, big Steve Yeager fan.
That's really common with musicians, by the way, especially back in the day of the big bands, and you probably know that.
Yeah, I do know that, and even some of the guys in recent years, I've heard interviews, and baseball was a big part of their upbringing.
Yeah, in fact, the rumor was that Harry James actually used to pick his band on how well they could play baseball, because a lot of the big bands had teams.
That's hilarious. Yeah, well, they probably on the road, when they'd stop off and have a day or two somewhere, they probably had some pickup baseball games. How much fun would that have been? I
know, isn't that crazy though? I guess that's not that crazy, but I guess Harry James always wanted to be a pitcher himself.
That's cool.
So that's not that uncommon for.
Yeah. I love baseball even to this day. Big Dodger fan. But yeah.
Just before we go on.
Yeah.
Just another weird and interconnected fact that I'm sure that you don't know is that one time, and I believe it was in the early 90s, I actually applied to be the jazz instructor at Esperanza. And,
oh, wow.
And didn't get accepted, but that's beside the point. That's
really cool. I mean, I wish I really wish I would have been playing music at that time in my life. That would have been a big help.
But there are other passions. I mean, I understand it. Yeah. I really do understand. What got you away from baseball?
So, you know what? I think I was really fortunate that talent really carried me through. I had a lot of natural ability with baseball, and not that I didn't work at it. I did work at it, but I think when it became real work, and the competition was really, when I came down here, it was crazy. Scouts were at ball games. It was very overwhelming for me.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like the top player up north where I was at, and here I was starting, but I was sometimes not starting.
You have all those Fullerton guys too to compete with.
Yeah, I mean, there's a hotbed down here, and I think just you either have it or you don't in terms of like the fortitude, like we were talking earlier about music. And I just didn't have it. So I just stopped playing. I played some semi-pro ball after high school for a few years, and it just kind of went away, you know. And I had to make a decision on what I was going to do as far as like you know, college or what have you. So I ended up going into the Navy.
Yeah?
Yeah, because it just seemed like the best thing for me at the time. And it was a really great thing. Johnny.
That's okay. Probably the mailman.
It is the mailman. Good job, Dan.
I understand dog.
Yeah. Yeah. He's gone.
So let's see. I think I wrote that down about your career in the Navy. You progressed pretty rapidly, right?
I did. I was really very serious about maybe making that my career. I served on the Midway, which is now a museum down in San Diego, aircraft carrier. And I managed to stay alive for 3 years on that flight deck.
That's tough, man.
Yeah. So, yeah, I made E5 right off the bat, definitely before my 4 years were up. And I got in as an E1. So I really loved it. It was great. And I was really lucky to be on that ship because, you know, she was winding down her tour of duty. So we got to go to a lot of great ports.
How long did it take you to get rid of your sea legs?
Well, you know, I was laughing about this with one of my students the other day because he went on this fishing trip. And I asked him, you know, did you get seasick? Because it was like a 60-foot, pretty big boat. But on an aircraft carrier, it's really hard to get sick because they are like a floating city. But the time I got on the small boys, like the battleships and the auxiliary ships, I had to do the tape behind my ear or the Dramamine. Usually the tape. Yeah, because I wasn't a good sailor without those tapes on the smaller ships. But on the aircraft carrier, I was fine.
And is it true that you started out as a trumpet player?
Well, I played trumpet for about maybe a year or two when I was in intermediate school, and I loved it. I used to listen to the Tijuana Brass.
Me too.
Yeah, I love that group.
I just bought it because I like the album cover on whipped cream.
Yeah, that is embedded in my memory forever. I think all of us were big fans of that album cover.
Oh, my word.
Yeah, so I really liked the trumpet, and then I tried the trombone for a couple weeks, and I thought that would be easy, but it's really hard. And then I ended up playing the alto sax for about another year. So for about 3 years, you know, I was messing around with instruments and playing music, and I loved it. I really liked it.
So you went from saxophone to clarinet?
Yes.
That's a hard one.
Yeah, it's still hard. Yeah.
Yeah. As a teacher, I remember I had all of a sudden I had to teach elementary school, and I had to get all that pedagogy back in my head.
Yeah.
And you can have your register key. I'm sorry. You can.
Yeah, it's getting better. I feel more, like I said, I feel more comfortable on that instrument than ever before, you know, thanks to people like, you know, I mean, Jeff Newdell's been a big help for me. A lot of people, Dan Levinson. Yeah, just so many helpful people out there. I know I'm forgetting some people, but yeah, definitely getting better on it. It's just, you know, now I want to sound like Edmund Hall, and that's really.
Have you ever experimented with the Albert system?
No, I haven't. I'm a big fan of Evan Christopher. I'm sure you know who he is.
I was in a band with him for like 3 years.
Yeah, so he plays on those Albert systems, and so did Albert Hall. I've thought about it, but you know, Dan, I just feel like, man, I got so much to get together still on the bone that, you know, to throw that in there, I probably wouldn't be good for me. Maybe someday. I
understand. Mike Olson made a real attempt at getting better at Albert system, and finally, Larry Wright said, "Why bother? You know, if it's so much hassle, and you think more naturally on BAME, you know,
yeah,
why not just work on that axe?" And I tend to agree. You know.
Yeah. And I mean, Larry's another one. Thank you for bringing his name up. I mean, what a great musician he is.
Wealth of knowledge.
I mean, just a natural musician, in my opinion. And yeah, I was listening to some recordings with him the other day, and with Corey and him early in the '90s, and it's just beautiful playing, man.
Yeah, mind-boggling would be a good word.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Corey taking up clarinet. No, come on, Corey.
Yeah.
You can't be good at everything.
Right. I know. He's something else, isn't he? He's such a beautiful cornet player and trumpet player, trombone player. Yeah, he's a big hero of mine. I love him.
Yeah, you'll see later on. I haven't dropped his interview yet, but I interviewed Corey.
Great.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, he's great.
Okay. So that brings us to college after, well, you went back into college for a while, right?
I did. So, yeah, I actually usually don't admit this very much, but when I was in the Navy, towards the last couple years of my time in the Navy, I was a huge Kenny G fan.
Oh, hey, you know what? I never disparage money.
Right. Yeah. And, to this day, I mean, I don't have any, I mean, obviously I didn't go down that road, but he connected me back with the love I had of the saxophone. And so that's how it happened. When I got out of the Navy, I decided not to make a career in the Navy, and I got out and started pursuing music. And I was in San Diego at the time, so I started going to Grossmont College, which is a community college down there. And I started taking lessons with Joe Murillo, who, it's so funny, right? Here I am, like, Kenny G, like, inspires me to play, and I'm taking lessons with Joe Murillo, who was, like, a Coltrane disciple. So at first, everything he was having me listen to, I was like, oh my gosh, because it was like late 60s train. It wasn't even like the swinging train from like the 40s and 50s. And I just thought, oh, this is awful. But I stuck with it, and then soon enough he introduced me to Stan Getz and Lester Young and all these guys who I just that was it. That was it for Kenny G at that, and has been ever since then. But I still, if I were to see him, I would thank him dearly. I even wrote him like this 8-page letter. It was so cute, because I just was just so in love with him at the time. But and the thing that's funny with him, the link from Kenny, I consider him a very melodic player, and all my great influences are all melodic players. It's just in the jazz, the jazz world. So not the contemporary world. But yeah, so then I was at Grossmont for a few years. Struggling. It was really, really rough trying to, have some kind of living situation and, be back at school. And I was like probably 30 at that time, close to 30. And literally, even though I had music as a background, I don't know how much was with me at that point other than putting the saxophone together. But, Joe was a big help. He was a big help. I studied with him and privately, and then eventually I came up to Fullerton Junior College because I had this notion that I wanted to go to Berklee College. I thought that was like an amazing school. But as things turned out, like they usually do, I was at Fullerton College for a number of years.
Was that before or after you ended up in the 300th?
Yeah, that was significantly before I was in the 300th in 2002.
Okay.
So this is like 95-ish. And then I transferred to Cal State Long Beach and studied with the great Leo Potts.
Great. Oh, Leo. Actually, when I first got into junior college, Leo was in the sax section. What a great guy.
Great guy, amazing teacher, amazing musician.
Gentle soul.
Yeah, although he was really hard on us, boy. When I went into those lessons, man, to this day, he is probably the hardest teacher I've ever had. And I've had some good ones. I mean, like guys like Larry, for example. He's pretty. That's one of the things I really love about him. He's very unfiltered, and he's
Yeah.
He's very honest, which is a great thing. You know, that's what you want. But I spent several years with Leo, and so he was very, very stern and very
A
serious.
taskmaster.
Yeah, yeah. So, but I'm very grateful. You know, he was a huge, huge person in my life.
Did he have you working out a lot of technique books?
Yeah. So his thing is the Lindemann studies. Lindemann and the Sobel, Phil Sobel, and it's so they have their own like pedagogy, their own book that they have, which is not that big. It's pretty thin, but really, really hard to do it right. And it's all, air and fingers and really, playing the instrument correctly, no matter what, wind instrument it is. So, and then outside of that, we worked in the Furling etude book. We worked in the J.L. Small etude book. We worked in the Ben Veriken duet book. And then, of course, we had all the, repertoire for your, what do you call that when you did your performances?
For your juries?
Yeah, juries. Thank you. Yeah, your juries. And I was in the saxophone ensemble there, which was really a great group, big group, probably 40 saxophones, 30 saxophones.
Wow.
Yeah, like, Leo sometimes would play like mezzo, what is that, the sopranino saxophone, and we had a bass sax, we had tenors and, altos. And then what we would do is play juries. Before our actual jury, we would do our performance in front of our peers, and then they would write down comments and give them to you, obviously without their name on it. So those are very terrifying years for me, but I wouldn't trade them for anything. I mean, I know it helped me a great deal.
Yeah, well, I mean, I can never stress enough to young players how that kind of basic knowledge and the knowledge of how their instrument works in a correct sense, in a classical sense,
Right.
carries over into the technique you have as a jazz player.
Absolutely.
I had the opportunity once to go to a Clark Terry clinic, and he said, learn everything, learn all your modes, learn all your scales. When you get on stage, forget it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Which means get it under your fingers so your brain can connect with your hands,
Right,
and then just play what you're thinking.
right,
And
right,
and that has to be the steps,
right. That's right. Yeah, he's absolutely right. Another great player.
Well, I famously, and I've said in a few of my interviews, that anytime I felt like I was getting good at anything, I would
Yeah.
put on the Oscar Peterson Clark Terry album, and it
Yeah,
would slap me right back into reality.
yeah.
Yeah.
Fabulous player. All those guys.
You just go, oh, that's right, I'm crap.
So how long did you play trumpet? Or do you still?
All the way through college.
Okay.
Actually, I was a high note guy. I used to play salsa bands and
Wow.
rock bands, and I was at the time I was a big band lead player.
Wow.
And I got stolen by the Dixieland crew at Orange Coast College, and I also played too. I was one of those kids who played everything in high school. And the
Yeah.
band director just knew that he had something here, and he would have me fill in whatever he needed in all of his ensembles.
That's great.
So my freshman year of high school, I played, ready for this? I played trombone in beginning band, French horn and flute in orchestra, depending on what the parts needed. And I would play trumpet, concert band, tuba, and symphonic band, and I played trap set for jazz band.
Wow.
I got all my solids out of the way the summer beforehand. So 4.0 looked good on my transcripts.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Where'd you go to high school, Dan?
I went to high school, Marina High School in Huntington Beach.
Oh, okay. Nice.
John Mason was the director there.
Wow. And then after that, you went to Golden West?
Actually, after that, I went to Orange Coast,
Oh, another great school.
which is when I got into the band there. I get to talk about myself. I like this. Oh, anyway, when I got into the band there, it was Leo Potts and Tom Saviano and Tom Kubis
Yeah.
and Dave Siebels and Dave Diggs, and I mean, it was a band of just monstrous players, and I had no idea. I was
Yeah.
hot crap in my high school,
Hmm.
and I walked in and went, "Oh, this
that-
is reality."
Was that Doc Rutherford?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yeah.
He was one of my mentors, one of my main mentors. And then, of course, that community college thing in Southern California, if you're a decent player, all of a sudden you start playing everywhere. And from there, from OCC, I went to Golden West with that program, with Dave Anthony and that program. And there I met all kinds of people also. Eric Marienthal was there and a lot of other people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I ended up at Harbor College where I played next to Wayne Bergeron. Anyway,
Wow.
so I was a trumpet player before I got into this trad. And I pride myself in the fact that everybody thinks that I'm selling out when I play something else.
Well, I think I love your tuba playing, and I don't think it's selling out in the least. I think it's great, and we're very lucky as a trad community to have stolen you away from mostly playing trumpet and doing what you do, because it's fantastic.
Thank you. Where do I send the check?
No, you have to send it.
Well, I love having people. My ex-son-in-law is a saxophone player that came out of the Southern California or California education system. And I tried to get him on some Dixieland stuff. And that's how come I know so much about trying to deal with somebody who came from the jazz chromaticism of modern playing, trying to fit the pay into that Dixieland thing. It's not easy. And I really feel for all the guys who had to go that way into it,
Yeah. If I had my choice, I would have started with that. I really would have.
Well, it's like I would have started with piano instead of
Yeah.
trumpet when I was young.
Yeah.
In hindsight, you just go, oh, this
Well,
is so much easier to see theory on.
Right. But improvisationally wise, I would have loved to have. I played in the Lemon Street Stompers for a semester or two at Fullerton Junior College. I didn't know what I was doing.
What year was that?
Oh, gosh, probably mid-90s, 95, 94, somewhere around there.
Okay.
And-
One year when Dick Cruz went on sabbatical, Dick Cruz, Rusty Stiers took over the class, and I went in and insisted. That's why I asked about the year.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what I did in that band, but I know that I love the music. And
He was actually, Richard Cruz was a good teacher for that. Was he doing it when you were there?
I think so.
Yeah.
I remember the band was really great. I just didn't know what I was doing, and it was, I mean, I'd like to think I was enjoying what I was doing, but I mean, that's a long time ago, and it's just now that I feel like I'm actually understanding what I'm supposed to be doing. So, yeah, because the role for a woodwind player obviously is different than the other guys in the front line, and
Well, yeah, and as you know, it's a whole different role than if you're playing in a
Different role.
bebop quintet or something.
Yeah, and I absolutely love it. But I just you just want to feel better, feel good about what you're.
Oh, yeah, I understand. I really understand, of course, being somebody who has to teach jazz at a high school level. It's hard to convey those Dixieland, traditional Dixieland roles for the instruments, as opposed to more modern stuff, the bebop stuff, where everybody plays the head, and then you improvise.
Right.
Every so often you'll have something a little more arranged than that, but in essence, that's kind of what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. A group I have that's based off of two of my two heroes, which is Al Cohn and Zoot Sims, the two tenor group quintet. Those guys did a lot of interacting, a lot of harmony, and a lot of just great stuff. Not Dixieland per se, but
No.
from the straight ahead sense, a lot of really great stuff. And then I also am a huge fan of Bob Wilbur and Kenny DeVerne, and those guys obviously came straight out of that Dixieland music and did their two horn thing was incredible, So, but yeah, I think it's, like I said, I love them both. I really do. Yeah.
Yeah, of course, I want to thank you guys, both you and Sylvie, for having me that once at your gig. And
Yeah, that was really great.
not that a tuba can really fit in necessarily to everything that you normally do. I really tried, and it was a lot of fun. You guys have a good thing happening there.
Well, thanks, Dan. I thought you did great. I thought it was really, really awesome.
I remember Roberto came in that
yeah,
night.
yeah. Pass the jelly.
Yeah.
Yeah, he would pop in there every so often, and he would pop in at the Culver. You know, we played at the Culver, and really nice. I really like Roberto. He really plays great. Yeah, no, that was a fun night, and I would love to play in more situations with the tuba because I just think it is so adorable. I just think it's the greatest. I really do.
You want to know something that's kind of a secret I don't talk about a whole lot, is I actually try to think more like Adrian Rollini on bass sax when I play.
Oh, wow.
Kind of where I get I don't know if you're familiar with that name or that guy, but
I'm familiar with it, but not really that well. But I'm thinking, like, would it be like Larry playing the bass saxophone kind of thing?
exactly. If you listen to early Whiteman recordings,
Yeah.
and some of those things,
Yeah.
he was the bass sax player on those, and it's just a punchier, busier bass line than you would hear from, say, a regular two-beat tuba player.
Yeah.
And so, and I don't necessarily try to think of it that way, but at my essence, now that you know about my background,
Yeah.
I really think 1940 string bass players is what's happening in my head, and I tried to talk. I was talking about coming the other way. I try to pare it down. The guys at Curly's now have me sticking almost entirely to two beat because that's what they prefer for the group, and that's what
Right.
my job as a sideman is to do what the band wants to do.
Right.
But if you listen to, I don't know if you've seen my other channel. It's Daniel E. Zeilinger on YouTube.
I haven't. I'm going to check it out.
But check it out because a lot of the other groups I've played in there are on that. I dropped clips on, and you'll be surprised at some of the stuff I'm doing. But
Well, I'm sure I would. I'm sure I would really like it. I mean, I've since I've met you, I've been a big fan of your playing. So, I'm looking forward to hearing that.
I'm going to start kind of wrapping up things here to you. But however, I want you to give me any last thoughts, give me some idea, or give the watchers, listeners some idea where they can find your music, if it's online or CD Baby or whatever. Plug away. You've got as much time as you want to just give final thoughts and to plug whatever you'd like to plug.
Well, thank you, Dan. And first, I'd like to thank you for including me in these interviews. It's been great to see you and to talk with you. And thank you for all the great work you're doing.
I hope we can get on stage again soon together.
Yeah, I hope so.
I've been meaning to come down to your jams and interrupt all of your Facebook friends.
Yeah.
But I just haven't done it, and I apologize for that. You've invited me several times.
Yeah, no, don't worry about it. I mean, actually, right now I'm pretty much jamless. I don't have any jams happening, and this isn't because of the pandemic. It's I think my last one at the French Quarter kind of ended up last year, but I had a nice, good 4 or 5 years of hosting, and it was fun. I loved it. Yeah, as far as any recordings, I don't have any. I am trying to finish up a project of with a quintet that has Ron Eshday in it. Some really great players, Kendall Kay, and that's more of a straight ahead group. That's in the can. I just got to finish it. And then, like I said, Sylvia, we finished her. We did an album a couple years ago. We have some really great players. Corey was on it. Barbara Lagaria was on it. Randy Waltz, Sagumi, and we got several tracks with Nahum before he moved to New Orleans. So that one is actually done. It's being mixed. So that's Sylvia and the Rhythm Boys. And then
you guys need to put out some videos. Actually staged and professionally shot videos of Sylvia. She has such a great presence.
She does, and she's she's a wonderful, wonderful musician. I'm very proud of her. She works really. She's, she loves what she does, and she's really great at it. Yeah, I'm trying to, encourage her gently with some things right now that need to be finished up. This whole time right now has got people sometimes in a different kind of frame of mind. So we're just working through it like everybody else. So hopefully, maybe in the near future, I'll have that quintet group done, and then I just recorded the last 2 days with the fellows I mentioned. I'm not sure if there's stuff that we're going to keep in that, maybe. But I think everybody's pretty eager to stay at it until we get, finish something. So those would be the two things. Oh, and then I have my 2 tenor group, but I haven't recorded that group yet. So I don't want to, I already feel kind of overwhelmed trying to finish these 2 things.
Sure.
So, yeah. So, and then actually I am playing right now, not as much as I was before, like most musicians, just duo gigs at Sebastian's, which is a really great Mediterranean restaurant in San Pedro. They have a really nice outside in the back of the restaurant dining, outside dining with, with a covering so that the sun isn't on you.
Sure.
But we're outside and everybody's spaced out properly. And then I play with a great guitar player. And then we do the same thing on Saturday. But we're out in front of the restaurant where they have the outside dining now. So that's a great restaurant. It's on 7th Street.
Quite often when I play, I'm spaced out properly, but that's a different story.
So, yeah. So that's really about it right now. I'm on Facebook, and I have a website. So, and I have a lot of YouTubes on. I have a YouTube channel. It's a Zootcase, Zootcase.
That's really clever. I like that.
Yeah. And so I've got a lot of videos on there, and I've got quite a few videos on Blowing Gold, BLOWINGOLD.com. That's my website, and I've got quite a few videos on there. And occasionally I'll share stuff on Facebook, but I'm not the most active, but I'm not inactive.
Well, I understand. No, that's good.
Yeah. So
if there's anything I would encourage from you, because like I said, I try to research everybody. Is I would try and find a stronger online presence for you, especially in regards to your background and biography, the stuff we just talked about.
Yeah.
Is because I know I enjoy digging in anybody. If I hear a name and somebody says, "Hey, have you heard of so and so?" I'll go, "No, not really. Let me look it up." And that's how I learned about a lot of players, actually, that I don't personally know.
Yeah.
And it gives me an indication of who I would hire or who I wouldn't hire too.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know if I know how to do all that, but maybe I'll.
Well, just make sure you have a pretty nice biography on your website.
Yeah, I think I do. I think it's pretty complete. I know Albert Alba. Albert was like, I just redid it right at the beginning of this whole pandemic time in March, and I had Albert read it, and he said he really liked it. So
good. Okay.
He's another big, amazing musician that I absolutely adore, Albert Alba.
Sure.
Yeah. I guess I kind of feel like it's still kind of word of mouth, and I guess the social media has obviously pushed that a little bit more than just word of mouth in terms of musicians. Probably, whether they like your playing or not.
Yeah.
And,
well, let me just quickly, let me explain just something that just happened to me.
Yeah.
is I had my high school best friend was a reed player who also dabbled in guitar, and his dad was a local clarinet teacher type of thing at Marina High School. And I've been interviewing all these people, and one of the guys I interviewed was a guy named John Brand, who was a tuba player with the Jazz Miners Disneyland group.
Oh, wow.
And that's neither here nor there, except I got an email now from my high school friend who now lives in Colorado, who's now known as a Christian guitar player.
Hmm.
And he saw my interview with this guy, and he emailed me and said, Dan, I played a job with him in 1980 on the Jerry Lewis telethon.
Wow.
And I had no idea they knew each other, let alone, so it's kind of whipping around within the certain musician circles, all of this online stuff. And it starts interconnecting. You'll see an interview on there from a gentleman I met who's a Hungarian violinist, a tuba player that's playing in Paris that actually was born in Sacramento. And all of this stuff is getting circled around in the jazz circles and early jazz circles. So it's important that we get your name out there, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Dan. And I'm honored. I mean, I just think I think this art form is one of the greatest things that's about our country, really, and just in my life, I'll spend the rest of my life trying to get good at it because I love it so much.
That's what we all do.
Yeah.
That's what we all do. And the key is, of course, as you know, is listening.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's right.
that's how I got looped into, like I said, I went from being a big band and Latin high note trumpet player, and I got sat down and guy put on some Bix and some Louis and some Red Nichols and said, here, listen to this. And I went, cool, And so now I'm good enough, at least I can cop all these different styles.
That's great. Yeah.
And I wouldn't be talking to you if I didn't think that you had the potential to be a great trad clarinet player.
Well, thank you, Dan. I'll remember that next time I play my clarinet.
I hope you get, when you were subbing down at Curly's,
Yeah.
and the reason you haven't been isn't because we don't love you, but it's because Mike Olson has stopped doing rock and roll gigs.
Oh.
He had a trio that did a lot of VFW halls and things that actually was like a 4-piece rock and roll band, played country and rock, and he played keyboards.
Yeah.
But his father was a very famous trad bass player, and he's a famous trad player. And he stopped doing that, so now he's at Curly's all the time.
Well, I mean, I don't blame him. I'd be there all the time too if I had the opportunity. So good for Mike.
Yeah, so I'm sure we'll get to share a stage again soon, is what I'm saying.
That'd be great. I'd love it.
But
I love CJ. I love the whole group.
say hi to Sylvia for me,
I will.
and I hope we'll get to do this again sometime.
That'd be great, Dan. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Oh, you're welcome. You take care, man.
You too.
Thank you for watching Trad Jazz Today. Dan shows new interviews every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Make sure to check out the archive of past shows, and please give us a thumbs up when you subscribe to the channel. Bye.